and then we'll call the meeting to order. So feel free if you need to use the restroom, grab some water or a sweater. Water outside. Yeah, there's some things outside. Hello again, properly. Nice to see you.
Outdoors, and it was like and these nice like Italian police officers kind of took us under their wing. And we had a deck of cards that we won. All of them had a plate of the spoons. That's like 5 or 6 other police officers. So then and then they took us at 6 a.m. and back to the station to reach the top for what? Yeah. But then it was they were actually
Does anyone need a copy of the agenda or
actually Verona and do it properly because this was not
Of all the things you see in Verona, that's.
Okay. All I mean, there was a statue of Juliet
And you're supposed to like brother, so like.
Did you want
rest
this?
is all-
Oh, we're good. Yeah, thank you.
That's fine.
all right, we're going to go ahead with the That's okay. We're officially calling the meeting to order. It's 1:32 p.m. on Saturday, October 7th. Thank you everyone for being here today, virtually or IRL. I'm excited to kick off this year. It's my first meeting as president. I wrote briefly about it in my report. But basically, I think there are just sort of 3 things to highlight. First is we have over 22,000 alums around the world. And I'm excited to be able to do more engagement with them and to rely on each of you to be part of that effort. I'm also thrilled about our executive committee and our new board of governors who are joining us today. I am excited that we have representation from across the US and that we have class years from all the decades much more people are alive and still active. So that's been pretty exciting. And other than that, I just want to thank everyone again for being here today, but also for your past support, which is why we sort of identified you as someone who wants to continue your school. Also you being here today, and then what we hope you will be able to contribute in the future. And as I like to say, it's not just about your money, but it's about your time, your talent, and your treasure. So thank you so much for being here today. And with that, looking forward to kicking off the rest of this meeting. So first, we have to approve the minutes. So make sure everyone had a chance to look over the minutes. Assume so, yes. Do we have a motion from the floor to approve our June 3rd, 2023 minutes?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposition? Okay, hearing none, the minutes are approved. Thank you. The second item on the agenda for us to consider is the election of Kelly Woodruff as our president-elect. I would like to nominate Kelly, who I've gotten to know over the years on the board. She is the co-founder of the Community Engagement Committee, and will be rolling off hopefully from that role and into the president-elect role. She's currently, and has been actually for quite some time, an appellate lawyer working out of the San Francisco Bay Area. And is there anything else you'd like to say?
Thank you.
I think. Do we have a motion? I know, maybe personally, we'll see. Do we have a motion on the floor to formally elect Kelly Woodruff to be our next president-elect?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. And Leo Martinez makes the motion. Is there a second? Seconded by Natalie. Thank you. All right. Let's. I don't think so. Put your head on the table, right? So we did not look at school. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposition? All right. Seeing none, the motion passes. Congratulations. Okay, now the next item is a meaty one. I'm going to ask those of you who have access to the notes to kind of flip to your, oh, we're gonna change it to turn to your packet. In the packet, there's some mention of our status. So to give sort of the high level overview for those who weren't at the last couple of meetings, the Board of Governors back in the 1940s was created as a 501c3 nonprofit. Fast forward many years, we do not have a bank account, we don't have assets, we don't conduct business in the traditional sense. And over the years, filings were not made with the tax authorities because we weren't really conducting business. So fast forward through COVID, we're in the process of changing our name on our bylaws to reflect the new name change of the law school. We were unable to do so because we're not necessarily operating as a 501c3 nonprofit. So what do we need to do? There are a couple of different things we could do. We could either pay the amount of money that's owed to both the IRS and the FTB and the Secretary of State. But are we really going to continue to operate as a 501c3? And in that traditional sense, like, are we doing active fundraising? Do we have a staff that we are paying? No to both of those questions. So another thing that we could do is dissolve. Well, because we have these payments that are due and penalties that are applied to those, it's not just as simple as dissolving. We need to explore the correct legal path to sort of get us to where we want to be. Because it's sort of all sort of manners of operation. We operate as an alumni association, right? We're a group of alums who are interested and passionate about the school. We're trying to engage students and newer alums. We encourage fundraising, but we don't take checks. We don't go to the bank. We're not paying staff. That's all handled by the school. So I would like to entertain a motion to create an ad hoc committee so that we can make sure that whatever the next steps are that we take are the correct steps. The downside if we rush too fast is that each of the current sitting Board of Governors could be liable personally. That's not something that I want to risk. So I think an ad hoc committee would give us an opportunity to really look at this issue. What is it appropriate for us to do without relying on the general counsel of the school, who has their own fiduciary duty to the school, not to us. But also to move it smoothly so that hopefully by the end of the school year, things are in their proper places. We are working as an advisory board with the Office of Alumni Affairs. The school operates as a school and supports and pays for the Office of Alumni Affairs. And the Board of Trustees Foundation is a lot of active fundraising, and they handle their fundraising in the way that they do as they operate as a traditional 501c3. So that's kind of the high level view. We feel free to ask questions if you'd like, although we don't really have an expert on this issue today here. This is something that's been going on for at least a decade.
I have a question. Do we know the amount, if we pay the total amounts due, what would that be?
We don't know at this point. So the school's general counsel did outline some items. So if you go into the board packet, there are from the UC Laws of General Counsel's Office, and then where it says our purpose and GC office update, and then the letter from them where they identify what we know, but we don't necessarily have like a report from the tax authority that says these are all of the years, these are each of the years where no paperwork was filed. This is a comprehensive identification of every penalty that you owe. Everything is sort of piecemeal, but we do have. Now we can research, we can go online and we can look through the Secretary of State's website, we can look through the Franchise Tax Board's website, we can look through the IRS's website. But again, this is something that I think is just, it is a little time intensive And if you are someone who has expertise in tax law or nonprofit law, we would love to have you be part of this ad hoc committee, because I think that it's something that I want to make sure we come together and possibly retain pro bono counsel to help us get to a clean resolution without risking personal liability for any of our board members.
I don't have expertise in those areas. I was just wondering if there was some number that we had as a starting point, but I understand that has to be researched. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
I have a question. I can't tell if you can see us here.
Hi, Barbara.
Hello. If we do retain any outside counsel support, would that be something we need to also work on a budget to manage, or is that something that the university will help us budget?
I'm not sure at this time. I personally reached out to a classmate from law school who is pro bono partner at Nixon and Peabody. I'm hoping to have an informal conversation with him to see about general options, ideas, and if it would be possible to work with us if we need to go down that path. But as of now, we have no budget. So
Understood.
yeah.
So we should all be kind of looking for any potential counsel who will do this on a pro bono basis.
Maybe, and that would be great, and to be part of the ad hoc committee if we were able to create one today, so
Okay.
that we can kind of take this away from sort of the board's business, but we can, have it set aside where we're working out the solution sort of over here. Because in addition to figuring out the correct form of dissolution that we did to take, there are about 4 or 5 different types of dissolution that you can file with the state of California. But they each have their own separate requirements based on where you are as an entity, how long you've been delinquent in your filings, whether or not you're currently suspended or your status was revoked, if you're still conducting business or not, if you're bankrupt or not. And I think that I just want to have someone who does that for a living to help guide us. Christina Martinez?
Excuse me. I don't know a lot about the nonprofit tax, but I can't help but believe this is a pretty common problem that both the IRS and the Franchise Tax Board deals with. So I actually, my instincts tell me that the penalties are not going to be huge, and because we don't collect any money, we won't have any tax liability. So my guess is it's not a huge amount of money. Second, the very best tax student I ever had in my career is a partner at Farella, and she knows everything there is to know about nonprofit tax. And I'm happy to ask her if she'd be willing to take this on as a pro bono matter.
That would be great.
She's the very first person I would go to with a nonprofit problem, and so I'm happy to do that.
That was one thing I'd love to do.
And the worst she can say is no.
Okay.
I'm confident in my ability to sweet talk her
We're having a conversation that's non-binding at the preliminary level.
And if she needs anybody here to witness that you just said she was the very best tax student you ever had, that should persuade them. Oh, Cynthia. Oh, yeah, she is.
From my preliminary research into this, it looked like we could possibly qualify for what's called voluntary dissolution with pre-dissolution tax abatement, which basically is asking the forgiveness of the FTB. They say you don't owe any taxes, and then you can dissolve the entity. But it requires that you've not been conducting business for 2 years. So what I would like clarification on is do these meetings count as doing business?
Who should, if I'm able to sweet talk her into this, who should she talk to that would know the most?
I'm happy to speak with her, or we could have someone from staff. I think it all depends on sort of where we feel that comfortable line is between what happens for the board and taking these next steps, and to what extent we have the Alumni Association part of this.
Yeah, let me just say that I'm not familiar with either the governor's exposure or the school's exposure. So all I can say is obviously we will do everything we can to work with you to make it not painful at all. And so I just obviously want to make sure I understand what I'm obligating us to, but just speaking for the school, you do a great deal for us. It is all volunteer, and we don't expect that you'll have any exposure. So we will, work with you as closely as we can. I will make our general counsel, to the extent that it doesn't create a conflict. We'll work with Cynthia and Perella if that is the way it goes, and we'll just sort of see where it goes from here. So all I can do is pledge my support, both personally and professionally on behalf of the school. But then in terms of what tangles the legal liability results in, then I'd have to make judgments there. But I don't anticipate, to Leah's point, this being terribly complicated, that there's very much exposure either for the governors or for the school. And we'll just work with you to make sure that that's in fact the way it happens. So if I were all of you, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it, and you all should not lose any sleep over it.
Thank you, appreciate that. Oh, yes, please.
Quick question, is there a timeline or like kind of or anticipate where we would need to have some sort of decision
I mean,
resolution, or is it still?
my personal goal would be that by the time I roll off and Kelly assumes the president role in July,
Okay,
that we've resolved it.
okay,
And my understanding too is that if we are able to do this pre-dissolution tax abatement and then the voluntary dissolution of the entity, that can happen pretty quickly. You actually have to file the paperwork within 1 year of receiving the tax abatement. So that it's just identifying which is the right route to take.
Right.
And to the dean's point, when I was looking at sort of the cost that I know about that we would owe if we decided to pay all of our fines and continue as a 501c3, it's not significant. It's not overwhelming. It's sort of, on a worry scale, I'd say it's like a 2 out of 10. It's something that we could, if we needed to fundraise for, do it. But if we don't intend to continue as a 501c3, then there are other solutions that we could take where we don't have to spend money that could go to scholarships or could go to something else.
Do you still want a committee or do you want to defer that until Leo?
I would feel best if we had a committee walking out of today, an ad hoc committee at least, where we have a few of us who are dedicated to looking at this issue and communicating with Leo and with the dean's office and with the alumni association's office. My concern is that if we don't do that, that it might not have forward momentum. Because the other things we would need to do is, assuming we move forward with formal dissolution, we need to create a different form of a governing document for us. Right now, we have bylaws, which are structured as a 501c3 bylaws with a lot of language regarding indemnification and fiduciary duties. That's not going to be the case once we transition into an informal advisory board. So that's something that we could work on as well within the committee.
Okay, well, I move then that we form an ad hoc committee to investigate and come up with solutions for the 501c3 problem.
Is there a second? Second. Is there any further discussion? Yep. Okay. All those in favor of creating an ad hoc committee?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing there are none, we'll move forward with creating this ad hoc committee. Please let us know before the end of the meeting, either me or Meredith or Hannah or Charles, or no, I won't make you responsible for that. If I don't hear from anyone who'd like to be a part, I will reach out to everyone. So be prepared for that. But thank you again for listening. Thank you for asking questions. Hopefully we'll be able to get this resolved within this school year's time. So thank you. With that, we will move to the dean's report. Chancellor and Dean, do you think?
Thank you, Madam President. It's great to see you all, and just always want to begin with a very big thank you. You all really do make a difference in individual students' lives and in the lives of the institution. And I don't say it often enough, and I can say it every day. We deeply are appreciative of everything that you're doing for the students at the school. Just sort of a slapshot, different aspects that I will talk about, but I'm more than happy to answer any questions on anything I talk about or any other issues that you want to discuss. First of all, as you know, the 198 building is now open. I hope that you all had a chance to see it. And if you haven't seen it, get over there and take a look. It is spectacular. In fact, we had the reception last night, and Deborah Bogarts said her comment was, "This is a great building, but that one's even more spectacular." I think that that's true, but they're both absolutely fantastic. And in particular, the courtrooms are, the way I like to put it is when you walk into the new Baxter Appellate courtroom, you can hear angels singing. And they almost truly so. The white marble and the beautiful blonde wood is really quite amazing. We are now going on to the renovation and seismic upgrade of the tower, 100 McAllister. As you'll recall, we received $90 million from the state of California to kickstart that effort. The total cost for 100 McAllister, including the full seismic upgrade to University of California seismic standards, which are actually higher than the baseline California standards, plus the full renovation of the building will be about $240 million. So the 90 million gets us about 40% of the way, and then we will probably do the rest as project-based funding, the way we did for 198. The building, of course, continues to be occupied at the administrative level. We're moving administrators, HR, general counsel, fiscal from 100 to 198 and 200, 333 this fall. Most of the folks will move in October. So 100 will be completely closed by the end of December. We've already hired new architects, actually old architects, Perkins and Will, who designed the 198 building. They will be the architects. They've already begun the drawings and the programming for 100. I can talk a little bit about that. There's quite exciting ideas for that. And then the seismic upgrade will be the first part of the project, which requires a good deal of steel reinforcement. The idea for the building is to keep every floor plate and rip out every wall, all the plumbing, all the electricity. We thought about keeping the elevators because they're so much fun to ride and they take so much time, but they decided to go with high-speed elevators instead. We are keeping the basketball court, which you all know is the lowest court in the land. Probably they'll have to rebuild it because they have to lay a new concrete foundation that will undermine the existing basketball court. They're going to keep some of the bleachers, rebuild the court, and then put in new showers and bathrooms. Behind the basketball court, you may not know this, is an old theater. There's actually a huge area. It's a very big footprint. So that area is going to be a recreational facility for the entire campus. It'll have a weight room, yoga rooms. It'll have ellipticals and other machinery for people to use, and tracks and so forth. So it's going to be really quite spectacular. We'll also be doing the Great Hall, which is, of course, the old Methodist church. We will try to replace the stained glass in that. It's going to be really quite the signature space. And then we will, the floors 2, 3, and 4 will be new administrative space and a few classrooms. And then from 5 to 14 will likely be suites of rooms. So it'll be 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and then a sort of a center social area for those 4 rooms. And then there'll be study areas in every floor as well. And then from 15 to 23 will be 1 and 2 bedroom apartments, so more appropriate for staff and faculty, visiting faculty and so forth. The 24th floor sky room will be completely redone. The windows will be kept as is. And then 25 and 26, you may know, are penthouses that have not been in use for some time. One will be the Chancellor and Dean's penthouse. I haven't been able to sell that to anybody, especially to Sacramento. But I would like to have some sort of a penthouse for visiting faculty or somebody that we want to have, something. Kamala Harris comes to visit. We'll have some place for her to stay, so vice presidential suite. maybe someday the presidential suite. And then above that, one of the ideas is to have a conference room that actually has sort of 360-degree views at the very top of the building. So it's a very exciting project, not going to be easy. It's a 1929 Fluger building. Plant Construction is our contractors. They've already renovated one on Montgomery Fluger building, so they understand the difficulty of it, but it's pretty exciting. Of course, the capital is really interesting, 333, 198, 100 houses, I think what are continuing to be great programs. I emphasize that we need to be one step ahead of our competition, as it were, which are other law schools and really where society is going, whether it's artificial intelligence or changing legal practices. So I'm very proud of what especially Morris Ratner, our Post and Academic Dean, has done in creating centers, and the centers really reflect one of my cornerstone principles, which is we're a Big Ten. We have the Indigenous Law Center, we have the Business Law Center, we have the Center for Gender and Refugee Studies, but we have the Tax Law Center. If you are interested in virtually any aspect of law, you want to be a public defender or you want to be a DA, we will provide the kind of education that's necessary for you to thrive in your practice. If you want to work with the Sierra Club, you want to work for Hans and Bridget, we want to make sure that we prepare you to be excellent advocates and are fully prepared for the practice of law. We're a big school, and that's a big advantage. We have 1,200 students, one of the largest law schools in the country, and we really need to provide centers, clinics, and other opportunities that appeal to different tastes and different desires. Just a couple of initiatives that I'm involved in, which I know pretty well. Again, trying to be at the cutting edge of what the Academic Village is creating. I think all of you know that we were part of the $10 million grant from the state of California. We received $3.5 million. UCSF received $3.5 million, and UCLA and the CSU Collaborative received $3 million for an initiative called the Bench to School initiative. And basically what it is the three campuses are to work collaboratively to create what is now existing called the California Institute on Law, Neuroscience, and Education. And the concept, which really comes from the governor's office, is to create a vertical integration of bench science, neuroscience, and behavioral science to help define law and policy and help to educate teachers and intervene in early education, dyslexia, and other learning differences that affect the success of children, and also work with the juvenile justice system to break the school to prison pipeline and really find ways that using basic science from UCSF to inform law and policy at UC Law and to help educate teachers at UCLA and the teachers that are being produced at the CSUs. And it's a wonderful initiative. The California Institute on Law, Neuroscience, and Education has already been created, but it's a nice illustration of that. We also, this is a little bit more in the early stages, but I like to bring these initiatives to your attention. One of the things is these things change, and I'll kind of give an example of that. As you know, of course, we received a good deal of money from the state for the Cal Scholars Program. So the Cal Scholars Program is if you're a California resident and you left the state to go to an HBCU, you can come back to law school and your tuition is fully paid and you get a $20,000 a year living stipend. It's one of the most generous scholarships in the country for any purpose whatsoever. But one of the great, and we originally got $4.5 million for that initiative. Senator Anthony Pornatino is really the force behind making that happen in Sacramento. Last year, we got another $4.5 million for the Cal Scholars Program, and Senator Pornatino recently told me that he's going to try to give us another $4.5 million next year. So it'll be a well-funded program that will continue, in the future. But one of the great things about the program is it gives us the opportunity to create other partnerships and other collaborations with the HBCUs. So about 3 weeks ago, I visited Dillard University in New Orleans, and then went to Atlanta to visit with Morehouse and Spelman, and then flew up to Norfolk to visit at Hampton, and then drove up to DC to visit at Howard, meeting presidents or presidents everywhere, provosts in Atlanta because the presidents were out of town. And we're just talking about opportunities that we could partner with them on. And one of the ideas that we had in the past was a 3+3 program, which we actually created with Spelman. And the problem with 3+3 programs is you do 3 years at Spelman, you do 3 years at UC Law, and you get 7 years worth of education because you count the first year of law school toward your undergraduate degree. But they go to law school and they're pretty young, and they don't have maturity to succeed as well. And that's not just true for the HBCUs. We have had one with Santa Cruz. We have one now with Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. So it's a program that really is unique to particular individuals' desires or needs. So I had the idea, why not do a 3+1+3 program, where the idea would be you do 3 years at, say, Spelman. You could then do 1 year paid internship in San Francisco prior to beginning law school. So you'd still be doing 7 years, but you'd have a full year of experience and maturity that would come from that. And so, of course, I don't have all the answers, and you always have to pivot off of what you think is a good idea when somebody tells you it's not such a good idea. So when we visited the presidents, they were a little bit concerned that knowing early enough to apply for that kind of a program, if you're at someplace like Spelman or Hampton, the students just don't know that they're ready for that kind of a program. And so we had alternatively thought, and then pitched this idea as well, of having a 1+3 program rather than a 3+1+3. And the idea there would be they'd finish 4 years at the HBCU, they'd be guaranteed a paid internship in San Francisco with paid housing in 198 McAllister, and then have a paid internship at some place like Lyft or Uber or Salesforce or PayPal or Adobe or Microsoft or Google. And they would do the 1 year, they would live on our campus, they'd get integrated with our community, and then they would do 3 years of law school. And it would just give them an opportunity to have a little bit of a ramp up and a level of maturity from that internship. And I have to say that all the presidents of the HBCUs thought that was a fantastic idea. And hey, in fact, General Williams, President Williams from Hampton, he's brand new. It's a 3-star general who's retired and now the president of Hampton. He said, I'll come out and visit the corporate counsel industry with you to try to sell this idea, because I can't think of anything our students wouldn't want more than that. What a great opportunity. So we're just starting to work that out. We're trying to identify placements for the students, and we hope to get that off the ground this year in some sort of a pilot program just to see how it's working, and then ramp it up from there. So I think it's an exciting opportunity. And I will say that Mario Lopez, who's now our Chief Diversity Officer, he is really spearheading this, and he and I will go to various placements. And if any of you have already gotten offers from the trustees for connections to Salesforce, PayPal, Adobe, and Google, but if any of you have those kinds of connections, I'm certainly open to talking to folks that might be interested in having placements. We're likely, I think it's important to have more than one person in each placement so that they have a partner and that there's a sense of camaraderie among the people. And so we're definitely going to have, try 2 placements in each place. So we would need companies to agree to that. And then another area that I'm starting to look into, and we already have a potential early funder, is to create a center on artificial intelligence. I know every law school in the country seems to be thinking that in that direction, but our thought is not so much the impacts of artificial intelligence, and not just artificial intelligence, but all the great challenges that we have to our society today: synthetic biology, genetic engineering, robotics, and AI, and all that's going to come together at some point. And it's not so much what the impacts of those technologies are going to be, but how law responds to those technologies. And that historically, the law had, I always said that the law operates in human scale and technological change operated at human scale. So the automobile was invented in the mid-19th century. Henry Ford, came up with the assembly line in the beginning part of the 20th century. But you had almost 100 years to come up with the rules that were going to apply to automobiles. AI and synthetic biology, all of that is just going to move all of this at warp speed. But the law continues to operate at human scale. I mean, look at the United States versus Google. They're relying on antitrust acts that are more than 100 years old, and they're dealing with behavior that started in 2010. It's 2023. If we're talking about the end of humanity, it's going to happen a whole lot faster than 13 years. And so we have to rethink how law responds. And maybe it's old models like the FTC doing review of technology or the FDA doing review of foods and drugs. But we have to rethink how law operates and having a center that's dedicated not just to AI, but to these other areas. That's something I'm working on. And again, all these ideas are just, early stage and they will pivot. But if any of you are interested in either getting involved or having firms contribute to those things, obviously we welcome them. Also a reminder that the ribbon cutting is next Thursday at 4 o'clock. Mayor Breed will be here and a number of other officials from the local and from state. We have actually over 600 RSVPs, so it's going to be just a huge party and just a feel-good event. Also, you all should have gotten the new magazine, and it's pretty cool. Just to let you know, because part of the purpose here is to let folks know our new name and the new campus. We sent it to every judge in the country, every single judge, over 4,000 judges. We sent it to employers, so major firms, managing partners got copies of it, and we sent it to every dean of all the ABA law schools in the country. So we really want to get the name out, get the fact that UC Law San Francisco is moving and moving fast, and they should start paying attention. Couple other things quickly, if I have a few minutes. Litigation. I like to joke, I've learned more about litigation as a dean than I ever did in my career up to this date, but I'm a client, both as a plaintiff and a defendant. So on the defendant side, the name change litigation, as you all will recall, we got sued in October 2022, seeking a preliminary injunction and basically making a breach of contract claim, both breach of contract at common law, but also violation of the contracts clauses of the California and US constitutions. We then filed an anti-SLAPP motion. We were represented by Gibson Dunn. We won on the preliminary injunction, so the law went into effect and we officially changed our name. We lost on the anti-SLAPP before the trial court. We then appealed it to the intermediate appellate court, lost before the intermediate appellate court, appealed it, petitioned the California Supreme Court. They just last week denied our petition. So now it's going to go back to the trial court. Gibson Dunn is not an inexpensive firm. So we did say to them at some point that we really couldn't afford their rates. So they started representing us at the appellate level pro bono. And they have already offered to represent us through the demurrer pro bono. We have an offer from another firm, they can't quite disclose just yet, to represent us pro bono through the trial. If it goes to that, probably won't. I think we'll lose the demurrer, in my humble opinion, but I'm happy to be wrong about that. But I think it'll be settled through summary judgment. There's just not much, there are really no facts of dispute here. And so we'll see. I do think our exposure is very low. Speaking of exposure, the breach of contract claim is really the principal claim. We're not in privy to contract. We were the subject of the contract. If it's a contract, it's either legislation or a contract, but we didn't exist. Sarnes-Hastings gave money to the state to create us. So we are the subject of the contract. So the most exposure we have would be to have to change the name back as specific performance on the contract. That's very, very, very unlikely. That's just not going to happen. And so we will work very closely with the Attorney General's office as we go forward, because it's really the state that has greater exposure than we do, but that will continue. On the litigation in which I'm a plaintiff, that's the sidewalk litigation. As you recall, we sued the city and county of San Francisco in March 2020. The city and county never filed an answer to our complaint. That's generally known. We immediately went to Judge Tiger, who was a judge. He had mentioned to Judge Corley, who now, of course, is the federal district court judge, worked with us, and within 6 weeks, by the second week of June, we had agreed to a stipulated injunction that required the city to eventually remove all the tents and encampments. It created the mayor's working group, where I sit with the mayor's office, in particular Sean Ellsberg, the chief of staff, the chief of police, the district attorney, now Brooke Jenkins, as well as U.S. Attorney's Office. It's been great, doing that, having that every other week meeting with the powers that be. It's allowed us to be really in the loop on what's happening. And I think that the streets are getting a little bit better, and I think the state gets some credit for that. I will say it got complicated this past year because of COVID. I'm sure you've heard the Coalition on Homelessness sued the city, trying to get them to be enjoining them ultimately from removing the tents. And the city took the position that order that Judge Ryu, who's a former colleague of mine, who's now a magistrate judge, that order arguably is inconsistent with the stipulated injunction. Those two cases now are collapsing into one another, and we'll sort of see where that goes. So we're very involved. Shout out, wonderful firm, Welcome Melodia, and our graduates, Mike Kelly, Rich Schoenberger, and Matt Davis. Matt Davis in particular have just done an absolutely fantastic job representing us pro bono in that sidewalk litigation. So we do benefit from the pro bono council, which has been fantastic. And then finally, because it's part of the name change, we have all the way back to 2017 worked with the Round Valley Indian tribes and the Yuki people to find ways to have restorative or transitional justice. We continue to work with them. We just had a meeting a few weeks ago with their tribal council, looking for ways that we can assist as a law school would assist. They've had some difficulty internally because of political dynamics there. They had an election, and they had recall. That was the elected representatives were then recalled, and then there was a little bit of litigation over that. So they've been caught up with some internal dynamics, but we continue to reach out to them to try to work with them. And that, I feel, is a continuing obligation of the institution, and something I really welcome, because I think our community can benefit as well. One example of that is we would like to, and there's been some interest in this, of having our mooters work with their middle school or high school students to work up briefs and do oral advocacy. And then we would actually bring their students to San Francisco, pay for them, and to come to San Francisco and argue their cases before our students or our faculty. And just what a great experience it would be, and something that they wouldn't otherwise get up in Round Valley. So anyway, we want to be good partners, and we'll continue to do our best to be so. That's my report.
Thank you
very
so much.
And happy to answer any questions that folks have.
On the Cal Scholars Program, that's a program that exists. It's not.
Yes. Oh, yeah. We've had over 20 students now.
Okay, so that was going to be my question: is how? So with these this money that we're getting from the states, how many students how many students are we taking a year?
So we're trying to bring about 3 to 5 a year. So the challenge is they have to be California residents. So they had
Before they go to college.
Before they go to college at HBCU. So it's a relatively small population, and then they do have to meet certain merit standards. So it's so we're getting the word out. Mario Lopez he was at Hampton, and I think he was with the school he went to, Maven Dillard, where he was actually presenting to the Pre-Law Society. So we're trying to get the word out.
And if they meet If they meet both of those qualifications, are they guaranteed?
Yes, if
So
they get
if it
admitted,
happens
if they
to
meet
10.
the qualifications and they're admitted, they are guaranteed the 3 years full tuition and $20,000 a year stipend.
That's all. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
it's,
And then the 1+3 program is still
so that's
like
very,
an idea.
that, right now, that's just an idea. We have it written out. We're gonna start sharing it with employers, or, you know, corporate placements. We've already shared it with the HBCU presidents. And the problem is that it's fairly expensive per student because you have to pay their annual, whatever paid interns get. They will pay for their housing, and then there'll be a little bit of a surcharge to cover. We need to have an administrator oversee the program. So we're average, it looks now about 120, 130,000 per student involved in the project.
Any questions for the dean from the room or virtually? All right, I don't see any. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you so much. Good luck next week with the ribbon cutting.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, will there be a virtual option for us to observe if we're unable to?
No,
in person?
yeah, unfortunately, there's no virtual option because the AV isn't fully installed in that room.
More
yet.
fundraising,
Right.
which is a great segue to our next presenter. Yes. Class agent program overview with, thank you, by the way, so much again, Dean.
Oh,
I'm looking forward to next week. And the class agent program overview with our former Board of Governor, Sharon, did I do that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brahma and Liz Magic from the office, from staff.
Well, thank you everyone for having me back at the Board of Governors. Good to see so many of you that are still here, so many new faces as well. I wanted to tell you a little bit about a fundraising program that the Foundation Board of Trustees has started, but we would like to get your help on. So one of the things we have flagged and that we've been asked about from the Board of Directors is the level of participation among our alumni in fundraising. And I think Eric has said this in the past, participation overall is relatively low. Ours at 8% is kind of in the middle of the pack, but we would like to get it up. And part of that goal is really because we are working on the pipeline for fundraising, right? So while we get the vast majority of our fundraising from a small percentage of donors, really working on the pipeline is how we identify donors for future generations. And it also is more than just about fundraising, right? When more people are involved with what's going on at the school, it creates more of an atmosphere of kind of collaboration and progress throughout the alumni community. So the purpose of the class agent program is to first inform all of our alumni what is going on at the school, what progress we've been making, what we need help with from our alumni, and to do that on a regular basis. So I like to think that as a progenitor for this program, I have been keeping up with some of my classmates from the class of '99 on a semi-regular, I will say, maybe charitably basis. So I'll send them an email or two a year just to let them know what's going on and what I think they could be of help with. And the problem with that effort is I was doing it all on my own, and it was not regular enough, repeated enough to get meaningful contact with all of those classes. So some people would respond to me, but it really wasn't official enough. It wasn't systematic enough to have an impact. This program solves those problems. So there's support from the alumni office staff. So let me back up a step and describe the program a little bit. So the purpose of class agents is to reach out to members of their class. So each class would have a class agent. They'll be supervised in blocks of 5 graduation years by a class agent manager. So each of the class agents is tasked with sending out regular emails to the people in their class. And the email content is given to you by the alumni office staff. So it's not like you're having to come up with this on your own. So it's prepackaged. The email lists are prepackaged. So from a technical standpoint, it should be relatively straightforward and easy for a class agent to do. The class agent manager is to help manage the feedback that those agents get back from individual alumni. So someone writes back to you and says they changed firms, they had a child, they got married, something like that. That's all information that we would like to hear about so that we know what's going on with alumni and so that we can maintain contact with them. And also, more directly, if they say, I would like to get involved with that moot court program, or I would like to get involved with some other, lecture series on campus, or I would like to get involved with fundraising for a scholarship, that is particularly information that we need to get back to the alumni office and act on, right? So that is how we're going to identify the fundraising targets that are most promising, that need to be acted on most quickly, and also direct to those people opportunities that are more meaningful for them in terms of their participation with the school. So that's the class agent program in a nutshell. We have positions for class agents, so that's working with your individual class, or for managers, which is working in blocks of 5 classes, 5 class years to supervise the class agents within that block. And what we are looking for is help from the governors, because frankly, we don't have enough trustees in enough different years to fill all of those positions. So if you're interested in being a class agent for your class, that would be very helpful. If you're interested in being a class agent manager, we still have a few of those spots left as well. I don't see, I think Brianna is keeping the list of those. I don't see her here. But we have a list of kind of the open blocks of classes we have for managers, as well as the open class years for agents. So I'm happy to, I know that's a lot of information, like a fire hose, but I'm willing to open it up for questions.
Is it possible to share this information, like as a follow-up email?
Yeah.
Because I feel like we'll be soliciting members for this ad hoc committee that we created today.
Okay.
And then I think it would be great if we could solicit members for the class agent program.
Sure. Kelly? Is the class agent, are these emails, content of the emails is it information, it's pushing information out, it's not asking for money?
It is informational. I mean, obviously, all information that we send out has a backdrop of, you could help with this.
Yeah.
There will be a link for, you can donate here at the bottom of all these emails, but it is not an overt, hey, would you give us $10,000 or something like that, right? So it is more informational, and then they come back to you and tell you, I'm interested in this or that or the other thing, or I'd like to help with this program. That's how we determine this is the opportunity that this alum is interested in, and we can follow up with them. And that may lead to an ask. It won't necessarily be the class agent that is doing the asking them. So I mean, it might be, if you're interested in following up with them, hopefully as you kind of do this class agent role, you either develop or rekindle a relationship with your classmate, and then maybe you would feel comfortable asking them down the road. But that's not an expectation.
To add to that, Sharon, too, that there are other ways to get involved, right? Of course, besides just the fundraising component. So if someone comes back and says, I'm particularly interested in being a mentor, we can work to connect them with the right people to do that. So it's really, we're trying to Sharon's point, create a system where we can reach as many alumni as possible in an efficient way, where they feel like they're being heard and that their colleagues and their peers, are sharing this information. And we hope that this program continues to grow. So let's say you are a class agent manager and, Sharon's 99. So he starts with the emails that we give you, maybe some information from Dean Fagman that we think is interesting, inviting people to come for tours of 198. But as you get more comfortable, you might see something that's particularly interesting to you, and your class might find it interesting. You don't have to wait for us to say, go ahead and send this to your class. You can kind of take that role on, as you would like. So this is just the start, and we're hoping to continue to grow it.
I have a question about the sort of analytics. Like, are you able to track who opens what and sort of that rate of opening or the click-throughs if this is being done through individual emails?
So I don't think we're using like a constant contact type of thing. So like if it was being sent out by the school, I think we would do something more like that. This is more kind of on a personal level, so I don't know that we're checking kind of open and click analytics for that. Frankly, I've done things through organizations where we do have that capability, and I'm skeptical as to the usefulness, frankly, of it, because I get great click rates, and then only the people who actually reach out to me to follow up are the ones that will do something. So.
And then how much time do you think this, if you're looking at this, would require at the start?
For the class agents, you mean?
Yeah, for the volunteers.
Yeah, I mean, so the sending out of the emails pretty quick. The content's going to be prepackaged. You're going to get an email list. You will probably want to tweak it a little bit for your voice. But other than that, it should be, the sending out is like a 15, 20-minute process. And then it really depends on how many people reach back out to you, right? So the goal is for when class agents are receive information or responses from the people they've emailed back out, you want to report that back up to your class agent manager. You know, you get a handful of those, we're hoping, per outreach, and it's like once a month. We're hoping to get to once a month outreach. So we're talking about like a half hour a month.
Yeah, speaking from experience, unfortunately, you probably won't get a huge amount of responses, but that's exactly why we're starting this program, right? You might right off the bat, first email, you get 10 emails not deliverable or whatever. But that's great for us to know, because now all of a sudden we know we actually don't know how to contact all these alums. So things like that are really helpful. And I should mention, anyone who is signing up to be a class agent, I believe for everyone, we're setting up a UC Law email specifically, because we realize if you're reaching out to 300 plus people at one time, number one, you may not want that in your personal emails. It may be too big of a list for certain emails to send. So you will receive a UC Law email that you can kind of keep this all in one place and keep it, separate from everything else you have going on.
In the prepackaged message, is there going to be like a pitch for people to send in class notes or anything like that too? Have you thought about adding that or?
A link for that? Yeah, I think that's standard too.
Okay.
Yeah, that's definitely on our list. And we're going to be looking for feedback too from class agents and class agent managers. So that's always something that we can continue to add it sometimes on others and see what kind of feedback we get.
I think that this is a great opportunity, an engagement opportunity for an engagement board to also work. We've been looking for harmony with the Board of Trustees and programs that we have. So you can also think that this is a great way to recruit for the board, for chapter leadership, or mentorship. We're always looking at this board to find avenues and a la carte menu options for engagement. This is a perfect way. I think Liz really hit on it. One thing, if this program is successful in getting updated contact information, that would be a massive win, because that's certainly something of room for improvement in our office. So I'm really excited and thankful to you, Charan and Liz, and the rest of the trustees for coming to talk about this and for getting it started, because it's a great opportunity for this board and for the trustees.
I'll also put in one last plug for people who are at firms, because I also like to bring it back to what's in it for you. If you're at a firm and you can't use this list for business development, I don't know what you're doing wrong. This is the easiest. It's like you're not asking them to send you a matter. You're just reaching out and getting in front of them. I don't know how many people I've gotten, inquiries from on actual work stuff based on the fact that I send out stuff for Hastings. So just saying.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? We're just starting a little bit behind, so I want to make sure to.
All right.
But thank you so much. This was very helpful. And we will include as a follow-up email how to sign up to be a class agent.
We'll get you all the information. And if you guys have any follow-up questions, just let us know. We're not going anywhere. So if you think of one later, just tell us.
Excellent. Thank you.
Although we are going.
We are right now, but figuratively, we're not.
And that's also a good segue to our next item on the agenda, which is the fundraising committee report. Madam Hannah, over here. I don't know if Hannah was going to briefly speak to it. I just want to make sure to everyone take a look at them in the minutes or in the board packet. There are some dates which are helpful for identifying our next event, which is the Giving Tuesday. And also, yeah, so.
Thank you. So fiscal year 24 began on July 1st, so it's been a couple months now. We ended the last fiscal year at 64% governor participation. Of the 27 governors that gave, 14 went above their pledge and gave additional gifts. And just a reminder, the expected pledge is $1,000 per year. We have a couple great opportunities to give coming up. We have Giving Tuesday on November 28th, and we have UC Law Giving Day on April 4th, 2024. So as a reminder, we work on a fiscal year, not a calendar year, so that kind of helps us break up the fiscal year a bit. And yeah, another reminder, any donations matched by your employer will count towards your pledge, and any gifts to any UC Law Fund, LEOP, Moot Court, anything like that also counts towards your pledge.
Thank you. That was great. Very, very quick. Just to reiterate, yes, everyone here, we have a pledge of $1,000. It is important we try to meet that pledge. If for whatever reason you don't think you'll be able to this fiscal year, please feel free to reach out. But it would be great if we could have 100% participation by the time Kelly takes over. Okay, any questions?
Do you remind people if they don't fulfill their board pledge? Do you like send a reminder like, hey, oh, okay.
We do on the major giving days. We'll send out a reminder to all of the board that day, and then towards the end of the calendar year, we will remind folks that don't fulfill their fiscal year. We'll remind folks.
I did want to add that the Latinx Law Students Association, I think they reached out, and one of the things that we were discussing was adding them to the organizations that can be donated to, I think, during Giving Tuesday. So hopefully they've reached out to somebody at UC Law, stuff about them, they've been added to it. I think it's a great way to kind of like be able to kind of give a specific gift to those organizations. I just wanted to flag that because they reached out and I didn't hear back after we talked about that as a possibility.
Thank you, Rodolfo. I had noticed, yeah, Meredith was nodding her head. So hopefully we can get that structured in place before Giving Tuesday. So it's an option. All right, any other questions? All right, thank you. Moving on, we now have our UC Law SF student president and external vice president here today. Would you like to give your report?
Yeah,
Love to hear from you.
So I just want to introduce myself first. My name is Kyle Freeman. I'm a 3L. I'm a student body president of U class.
And I'm Valeria, and I am a 2L, and I'm the external vice president for U class.
Very nice to meet you all. I'm really glad that you all are here, and it's nice to see a lot of alumni, prioritizing your relationships with each other, and hopefully we can make some good things happen with the current students as well. I told this story earlier. I think it's relevant as far as why I feel like I'm in this position and what we can all do together to, maybe make some good things happen for the current students. When I was a 1L going through interviews, I borrowed a tie from a 3L at the time, Marcus Kennedy Grimes, who I'm sure some of you know. And Marcus is 5'6", and I'm 6'5". And that matters because I was going through Zoom interviews and the tie only went about this far down on my chest. But thankfully, again, on Zoom, it worked out. But what I realized is something that my dad has always said to me growing up was, look good, feel good, play good. And I figured as a 3L now, and now that I have a job lined up and I'm feeling more comfortable and confident in my position as a law student, maybe I could help some 1Ls feel good and look good, so that hopefully they can play good and have successful careers moving forward, like all of you. And so Valeria and I connected a lot over kind of that passion and that drive for helping people develop professionally, whether that be in looking good or feeling good. And so really, we've come up with a few programs and a few events that we think you all would love to contribute to, be a part of, and just get involved in. So, and she'll tell you about those in a second, but quickly, as far as looking good, we have a clothing drive, a professional closet that we're developing. We would appreciate any donations any kind of clothing items that you think will help people look the part, especially now that interviews are going back in person. Jackets, blazers, dresses, briefcases, shoes, anything that's relevant, anything that you guys think would be fantastic. We have Flash and Fizzle, which is a headshot program to get people those professional looking headshots for their LinkedIn profiles and for resumes. We have an alumni mentorship program that we're working on with the CDO to get more connections between you all and the current students. Valeria will tell you about what we're hoping that you guys can do for them. And then finally, we're hoping to host a boards giving event in the new 198 building. Hopefully you all have seen that already, but if you haven't, it is a beautiful space. The courtrooms are fantastic, as Dean Fagan had said. And hopefully that will be a time where you all can meet some current students, maybe some of the current student leaders, and we can all discuss some ways that you all can get involved.
So as Kyle mentioned, I will be elaborating on a few of the details of each of these programs that we are collaborating with the Advancement Office. Thank you, Meredith. And other organizations and departments here on campus. So first we have the professional clothing closet, which is first I want to thank everybody who has brought donations in today. They're really appreciated. We also had a great turnout this morning at the Board of Trustees. And so my eventual goal is to implement a physical closet where students can step in and access a tie if they need it, last minute Zoom meeting or a jacket, whatever they need. But for now, I will be doing pop-ups on the quad. And so we have a really cool clothing rack. And the first pop-up of this year was this past Thursday. And it was super popular. Over 50 suits and blazers were taken. Everybody was excited, and students were also just really surprised that, they didn't know who organized this or where the clothes came from. They asked me if they have to pay to take a jacket. And so, earlier there was a suggestion that if students ask that, we can say, in 5 or 10 years, you can make a donation, right? And so, we hope to do an ongoing drive. So if you have clothes, as you do your spring cleaning, right? Connect with us so that we can take those off of your hands. And we're happy to meet here. You can mail them, or I'm happy to come to your place and pick them up, or to your office if you're in the Bay Area. Not an issue. And so, connect with me about that. And then about Flash and Fizzle. So we are looking for sponsors right now because each session of photography for an entire day is about $1,000, and that is providing photographs for about 50 to 60 students. And so last year, I think was the first year that we launched that, and we had about 5 full days. So over 200 students, like 250, I think, students were photographed. Obviously, we have a really large number of students. We have over 1,000 students. So a lot of students did need the photos, but they were not able to access them. And so we want to increase that access this year. And right now I have 2 dates lined up for October, and I am looking for hopefully 1 or 2 more people to contribute to this program. And so if maybe you don't have the capacity to donate, maybe you can connect us with a small firm or other people in your networks to help donate. And
How you're not making your donations online to the school.
Actually, we now are. Yes, so we have a link. We have a link now. Yes.
That specifically says Flash and Fizzle.
It's for
Or anything.
I think so. Yeah, we're still working out, ironing the details, but that is something that we will share so that you can make those donations. And I'm sure you can also just put in the note if it's not specific to Flash and Fizzle that you want that money to go to Flash and Fizzle. And then we're working with the office and studio, as Kyle mentioned. And so One of the really cool things that we're collaborating on is launching the alumni networking website, which is already live. And so we ask you to, if you haven't signed up already, to please sign up for that website. And we are also having a kickoff party in November. And so we're encouraging students to sign up as well so that they can have quick access to alumni mentors who may be able to provide a coffee chat or a quick resume, cover letter review, or a mock interview. And, again, as Colin mentioned, our emphasis really is on this professional development. So we hope that to be able to bring in alumni so that they can, participate in a workshop, a resume, cover letter, mock interview workshop, and just provide students with as much support as we need. And then finally, the fun part about Boardsgiving. That event will take place on November 15th. And so we're really trying to get individuals to come. So trustees are invited, all of you are invited, Board of Governors, U-Class leadership, and then also faculty and administration leaders. And so it's going to be an informal potluck style get together. So developing, strengthening these ties. And so all we ask is that you save the dates and plan to come on November 15th. We will be meeting at the Academe, and about 2 weeks before, we'll send more details, but plan to bring food or beverages for about 2 to 3 people. Thank you.
Yeah, Kathy, I saw you had a question.
Okay, I have a few questions. First, for the students that want to, that are doing the closet and they want to donate, the students can donate. So I know their fundraisers are not here, but even if they want to donate something like $5 or something, it does also help us to get students giving early.
Absolutely.
So that's an option. The other thing I wanted to say, I think the Flash and Fizzle is really great. But there's some really great AI tools that can do it for much cheaper. So you may want to consider looking at some of those, because then you can just get a bulk purchase or whatever, and give out codes. And then people just take their selfies and then they create really nice, and they're not like the high school ones that you're seeing right now. They do really look professional. Like if you look at my LinkedIn, my headshots are all AI now. Because the thing is like with the, even having a live photographer, like if you really want a great headshot, you still got to get like your makeup done. Like there's a lot of stuff that kind of goes into it. And a lot of that worry and stress goes away if you just use AI. So something to consider, because like you can do like one of them, it's like $30 and you get like 50 headshots. So it may be something that you may want to think about like in future years or future iterations, and I'll send you the website that I use, and you guys can look at my LinkedIn and see. I've been using them.
Can I add one thing to that? Maybe one of the things that can be sort of a hybrid, right? If you have more students than you're able to do at least this year with the number, because if you have like 1,000 students who potentially could need it, you could only do 500. Maybe there's a way you can supplement.
Yeah, that's a great idea too.
So it's sort of a hybrid.
Thank you.
Can I add to that too? First of all, thank you both for your time. I don't know how you're planning everything you just talked about while being a law student. It's very impressive. So we really appreciate that. I know my firm does like quarterly photo shoots for, new attorneys come, old attorneys need new headshots. And a lot of the times I walk past the conference room where they're doing it and the photographer's just sitting there. So I think there's a lot of downtime. Either someone cancels their appointment or, they have room they're there all day, but then, people trickle in and out. So maybe we can work with firms and have students fill in those spots so that there isn't downtime. And that's another way to get you some headshots.
I was wondering if someone from the development office could talk about the portal we were talking about in terms of setting up to be a mentor or do a mock interview. I know when I was in school, we went through basically career services, and how does that happen now?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about the online alumni network. Its main mentoring focus is on flash mentoring. So really quick and accessible, like having an alum look over your resume or a quick coffee chat or just introductions to connections. For more in-depth mentoring, we would advise someone to go through CDO's program. So when you join the network as a student, you can punch in what type of help you're seeking, like coffee chats or resume help, things like that. And then when you join as an alum, if you are willing, you can punch in what type of help you're offering. And then when you go onto the website, there's the mentoring tab where you can specify what industry you're looking to be in and things like that. And it'll show you all the alums or students who fit that criteria that you're looking for. So it's a great tool. I know a lot of you have joined. Thanks for that. Yeah, we really hope that it can be a good resource to students and alum alike.
That would be great for our participation engagement, like not just the $1,000, but also getting everyone on this. So we'll make sure to include a link when we do our.
Yeah.
And you can join chapters and affinity groups on the site as well. And it's a great way to get involved with your locale if you're not in the Bay Area. And it's a great way to create pop-up events or get folks together around UC Law.
So to that, in the past, there were these 6 at 6 dinners. Is that something you anticipate continuing? Would you like us to set those up again? And if so, would we do that through you or through the portal website?
That's a great question. And yes, we are also organizing 6 at 6 events. And so another thing that we are doing is this year we're very conscious about increasing the diversity of the 6 at 6 events. And so we're chatting with other individuals about the possibility of funding, a number of people per semester so that those funds cover a host who works in public service or public interest. And so that's something that we are also developing. I do have a few 6 at 6s already lined up, but I am reaching out still to people. And so if you are interested in hosting a 6 at 6, please let me know. I am also trying to find the time to continue this database that I've started where each individual who has either been contacted in the past or has hosted or has expressed an interest to host, their information is now in this database that all my future EVPs will have access to, so they don't have to reinvent the wheel. At this point, what I've had to do is go through the email address to find old hosts and like prior years and stuff, which takes a lot of time. But if you're here now and you are interested in hosting a 6 at 6, let's chat and let's make it happen. And I'm happy to do whatever it needs to be done to make this as easy as possible. And the other thing is that I am also looking to create 6 at 6 events during breaks so that students can continue developing their networks during like the winter break or Thanksgiving break or, spring break. So I think that sometimes the concern is that students might not be in town or that students might be like burned out from school, but I don't think students ever say no to hanging out with, free food and like hanging out with someone and just like chatting about their future,
Great, thank you. So Brent, so we'll make sure to.
Yes, thank you.
For those who are new, 6 at 6 was a program that was started many years ago where an individual, an alum, a mentor invites 6 students around 6 p.m. so dinner time. And they host the dinner and they basically talk about their experiences, get to know the students, and it creates a more informal relationship between the students and our alums. So it's been a great program. I feel that people who host the dinners and the students who attend have always said amazing things about it. So it's great to hear you continuing. So if you're interested in participating in that, Barbara, do you have a question?
I do. I think that was Valeria giving us information about reaching out to her, but I didn't hear her contact information. So if someone can put it in the chat, that would be great.
Okay, great. Thank you. Are there any other questions for our students here today? We have your information. We'll make sure to get in touch with you. Hopefully we'll gather some names and contact info for all of these amazing programs.
Thank you guys.
Moving on, we are running a little bit behind, but we have online today a panel for our Board of Governors with the staff. We have Tiffany Gabrielson from the Dean of Students, Amy Kimmel from the who is the Assistant Dean for the Career Development Office, and Elizabeth McGriff, who's the Assistant Dean of LEAP and of our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Advisor. And Tiffany started recently, I believe I saw something on LinkedIn welcoming you to this school. So welcome, congratulations. And we're looking forward to hearing your presentations, and hopefully we'll have a few minutes before 3:30 to facilitate questions. Is there a formal film or just having them? Excellent. Okay, great. Thank you. All right, so Tiffany, our Dean of Students, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you all so much for being here and dedicating your Saturday and so much time outside of this Saturday to making the school a better place. I have been here for about 65 days now, so take everything I say with a grain of salt because I still don't know what I don't know. What I do know is that I have come to find a school that cares so deeply about students and students that care so deeply about one another, and who are looking for a place and space at the school and are wanting that to kind of help be fostered. So a lot of my goal as I've been kind of getting up to speed here is understanding the particulars of what UC Law SF is and not what it has been in the past, although that's certainly important. But it sounds like so much has changed even in the past few years as the schools continue to evolve. And then also another one of my big goals has been helping to connect with and understand the student experience. So we are currently in midterm season, which means that a big chunk of my job has been working with students in distress or students in crisis or students who are having anything from did I make the right decision to students who are kind of going through an acute mental health crisis because they're kind of stretched too thin or having other things happening in their lives. So kind of zooming out for context, in my reporting line are student health services, which is managed through an external contract through Carbon Health, and that includes student insurance as well through UC SHIP. Our disability resources program, and our student services team, which includes academic advising, our care coordinator, who is a confidential resource for anyone who has experienced anything that might fall under Title IX, any sort of sexual misconduct or relationship or dating abuse, as well as student organizations. What we heard before I came along was that students, when they were in these places of distress or when they were experiencing a grievance, it wasn't really clear to them when they had a concern about another student or they had a concern that might fall under a university policy or a college policy, what to do. So one thing that I did when I came on board is I worked with some staff in various offices to create a comprehensive set of grievance procedures, which outlines all of the existing mechanisms for grievances to bring forward, whether those be formal through something like a Title IX process or the Student Code of Conduct, or informal, something like someone's just having a conflict with another student and they need someone to talk to about that and figure out what their options for moving forward are. So that has been developed and is going to be pushed out to students this next week. And this next week, I am also piloting a program where I am meeting individually with every 1L student in groups of 10. They're being offered to come have coffee with me, where I'm going to talk about some resources on campus, what their experience has been like. And that's intended to help them get to know me, to help me get to know them before they're in a time of crisis, but also for them to get to know each other and some of the resources available in the school. And my goal is that by the end of this academic year, I'll have met with every 1L student. I know that we are low on time. I could talk about the work that the teams that report up to me are doing. But something, as we are in midterm season, that's important to know is students are coming in with a higher level of need with respect to accommodation. So we've been piloting some ways to help automate and some of the work with respect to accommodations and communications through accommodations. So we're bringing on a new system to help with case management for that, and also creating a plan with generative AI becoming an issue. A lot of exams and assessments that were remote are moving back to in-person so that it can be really clear that students are being evaluated and assessed on their own work. But that's also creating an impact, especially for students who need extra time for proctoring and things like that. So we've been working up with some plans to help with that. So that's a little bit about what is going on in my world right now.
Thank you. Thank you, Tiffany. Next we'll
I
hear.
know we're short on time. Can I just say one thing?
Sure.
Like, I'm impressed. You 65 days and you've already talked about highlighting, like the grievance program and all the things you're doing and getting to meet with the students like for the coming year. So I just want to say props to you and welcome to the law school.
Thank you so much. It's really wonderful to be here. I cut out some about my background because in the interest of time, but super happy to connect with any of you about the ideas you have, because I think that the ideas to make this school a better place are going to come from the students and from the alumni, because you have sat in these seats in a way that I have not.
Thank you for that. Next, we will hear from Amy Kimball, the Assistant Dean for Career Development.
Hi, everyone. So nice to see you all. Thank you again for being here today, taking this important time out. I'll just give you a little brief rundown of what's been happening this fall and what's coming up. So we are in our second year of our professional development graduation requirement program. We're really happy to have this pilot program going. This means as a first year, all of our first year students have to attend 6 mandatory events on foundational issues like networking, resumes, cover letters, job search, all of that good stuff, to optional events of their choosing about any sort of career path that they're interested in, as well as a mandatory appointment with my office and a mandatory appointment with the Student Services office to make sure they're on track academically. We also have a number of other events bringing employers on campus. We have some special targeted lead-off events in partnership with Dean McGriff that we're excited about, as well as our events with the First Generation program. In 2 weeks, we're doing a session on imposter syndrome. We did one on job search, and we'll do one in the spring about judicial clerkship. So hopefully let our first-gen students know that this is a path they could consider as well. On the graduation side, we have our 20 short-term Bridge Fellows just started their placements. Thanks to the generosity of Dean Figman, we provide funding to grads who are starting their career in public service or at a nonprofit. So we're able to give them a small stipend for jobs that would otherwise volunteer. Things like DAs, public defenders, and some nonprofit work. As was mentioned, we do have a very robust alumni mentor program. I know many of you have been involved with it in the past. We partner with practice-oriented student orgs and match about 300 students with practitioners in the areas they are interested in. And then we also have our mock interview program twice a year, once in January and once in July. And I will put my information in the chat. So certainly if folks are interested in getting involved in that, we would welcome you. And I'll just do my final plug. I always do. One of the biggest ways you can help our students is to hire UC Law SF. So if you know of any positions, either with your own organization or through your network, never hesitate to email me, even if it's just a forward without a hi. Barbara knows this. She sent me many things in the past. I'm always happy to take any postings or opportunities that you see. And just one other piece of exciting news, we are currently interviewing for a new position that will be split with my office and the clinical externship department. And their focus will be advising students on judicial clerkships, post-grad, as well as assisting the externship department with all of our great externship programs, including judicial externships, our corporate counsel externship program, and other nonprofit and government opportunities. So thank you all again for being here. I'm happy to answer questions after Dean McGrath gives her spiel.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much, Assistant Dean Kemal. Next is, Assistant Dean of LEOP and Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Advisor, Dean Elizabeth McGriff. I'm excited to hear from you. I'm a LEOP alum, so always excited to hear that LEOP is still strong, and excited to have you here today.
That's wonderful. I'm very happy to be here. My name is Elizabeth McGriff. I'm the director of the legal, well, now dean, which is historic because the program has never had an actual decanal position. So I'm excited for the program as well as for myself. I also serve as the diversity, equity, and inclusion advisor. Modern LEOP is stronger than ever. I started December 1st, 2017. I'm surprised I haven't been here sooner than now, but within less than a year of my taking the helm, the number of entering students doubled, nearly doubled from 44 to 76. And we've maintained class sizes of 65 to mid 70s for, I think, 5 out of the last 6 years. Brought in 6 classes. I've held 6 orientations. LEOP metrics are better than they've ever been. We have some of the highest academic outcomes than we've had in the history of the program. For certain, not to mention that we had 3 consecutive years of sterling extraordinary increases in actual bar outcomes, more than 30 to 40% improvement range, which is exceptional. LEOP is, as many of you may know, is a 3-tiered focused program, one component being admissions, the second being academic and bar support and community building. But the truth of the matter is there's so much more that goes on than that. And I've actually built out a full and very strong professional development program for our students because while the academic outcomes are certainly important, their professional outcomes are particularly important because that's where they're going to be spending most of their career. And to that end, I've created specialized training that begins the very first day of a nearly 1-week orientation that I put on that begins with a reception. We kick off the first day with some professional development training, some talk about decorum and civility and professionalism. I've also brought in from day one, my very first orientation, a real focus on executive functioning, in which I taught for a few years, and I've brought in a wonderful consultant who does a whole program on how to use your executive brain to do well in law school. Part of the LEOP orientation program is academic programming that is done in part by Professor Richard Sakai, who is a 1977 graduate of UC Hastings, formerly, and LEOP, and now serves as the, he's a professor and a lecturer, but he's the director, associate director of academic and bar support for LEOP. And in addition, I bring in someone from another law school who does an exceptional academic success workshop that is really legendary for our students. And I also bring in a host of students, alumni, faculty, as well as other departments. As a part of that orientation, we actually do quite a bit of socializing because part of the objective for me is to ensure that not only are the students feeling, a bit of a leg up in terms of their preparation, but I want them to be empowered to feel that they belong in this institution and that they can take up leadership roles and excel, as evidenced by our current president, Mr. Kyle Freeman, as well as our very lovely Valeria Vera, who has taken on a cause that has been true to my heart, which is professional clothing, which I've been providing for LEOP students since I started in 2017. So I'm glad that she's taken that up. The accomplishments of LEOP students has just been exceptional. And we've had so many best brief, best oralists, critical mass of students going to top law firms, including but not limited to Melvin Ian Myers, Morrison and Forster, Morgan Lewis, Orrick, et cetera, one of our California scholars who's a 2L now, was an intern at the California Supreme Court over the summer. And she's also quite active in many other organizations. We've got Cali Awards all over the place. The students really like each other. They spend a lot of time together in our suite. Just about every week, I have some kind of social event in our suite so the students can spend some time together. I developed a faculty mentor program, further developed it. And so that includes 25 to 30 faculty members who have volunteered to serve as mentors to anywhere between 1 and 6 students. So they're paired up at the beginning of the school year and they enjoy a relationship not only during their 1L year, but going into their upper division years as well. I also created in partnership with Professor David Takash, LEOP faculty doctrinal office hours program, which has been a runaway success that I started the first year that I was here, wherein professors who teach doctrinal subjects volunteer to come to the LEOP suite or whatever room we can find and hold doctrinal office hours for LEOP students. And not a huge output for the faculty. We try to make it easy for them. But what that does is it incentivizes students to attend office hours more generally and encourages them to engage with faculty and it increases their confidence. That did not exist prior to my leadership. And so that's been a beautiful thing to watch, and the students are thriving as a result. As Dean Kimmel mentioned, through the good fortune of me being able to work in partnership with the CDO, I think we're going on our 4th year of a partnership with Airbnb for a mock interview program that we hold each spring semester in January. I've also had an alumni mentor mock interview program with the students in the early years. I currently have a brand new partnership that I co-created with the San Francisco City Attorney's Office. We're in the inaugural year of their law fellow program, brand new law fellow program. It is a LEOP specific opportunity. So I'm eagerly anticipating who's going to be selected for that from our most recent alumni. It also includes a very robust salary for a 1-year fellowship position. So we're excited about that on a going forward basis. The criteria will be broadened to include HBCU graduates and folks from other backgrounds. In terms of the DEI, there's just not enough time to talk about all those things. I've had the good fortune of working with Chief Diversity Officer Mario Lopez from the beginning, engaging in recruitment. There were 6 Black students in the entire school when I got to UC Law SF when I returned. As of last year, I think we're in the 50s. So we've made great headway in that regard. I've done recruitment efforts in person and in travel and by Zoom for students. I constantly hold LEOP information sessions. It was at my suggestion that I co-created departmental diversity, equity, inclusion program, diversity, equity, and inclusion departmental plans. The suggestion was that I thought that each department at the college, in an effort for us to be focused on diversity, create their own diversity plans. And I did that in partnership with a wonderful Assistant Chancellor, Jenny Kwan. Is also the Chief of Staff for the college. I've created 2 bar scholarships for LEOP students that previously did not exist. They really need money to be able to get to the finish line. While some of those students do receive money from their law firms, the reality is the bar ends at the end of July and they don't start their jobs till October 30th. I've created LEOP graduate fellow positions so that students can come work in the LEOP suite with us for the couple of months before they start their positions at law firms. And that's been really beneficial for the existing students. I serve as do give some advice and counsel to the dean and chancellor. I was on the campus climate survey committee for, I don't know, over a year. I also was the co-chair of the campus climate advisory committee, and also on the committee that created the community principles along with did the initial draft along with Diversity Officer Lopez and others. I could say more, but for now, that's where we are. Thank you.
That's a lot. It's so exciting to hear all that each of you do to support the students in the sort of the different places of where they are, yet to provide this sort of comprehensive care for the students as they're here. I'm going to open it up to the floor. If there are governors who have questions for all or any particular panelist. If you're online and you'd like to participate and you don't see me call your name, feel free to try to raise your hand on the screen with the little icon. Otherwise, is there other questions in the room? Online? I have one question, I think, for each of you. If you had some sort of ask for us to do something to help support the students from your angle, and yet what they might need from alums, either in Los Angeles or in San Francisco or other parts of the world, you know, what would be that one thing that you wish we would do, either in terms of outreach or phone calls, besides money? Because I think we always need to give money. But if there's something else that you'd like to see from us, so we could start with Elizabeth, and then go to Amy, and then Tiffany.
Yeah, so if we're not talking about money, I would suggest mentorship. The students really relish mentorship opportunities, learning from experienced attorneys. They need, understandably, a lot of guidance and crave very specific guidance increasingly, I've noticed. And they, most of our LEAP students have had such good mentee relationships with faculty and others. I think that they would most certainly value that.
Thank you. And then Amy?
Yeah, echoing that, like, as I said, so many of you already volunteer in so many ways with our mentor and mock interview programs. So, you know, just answer that email or answer that phone call when a student reaches out is so appreciated. And particularly, I would say to our folks in Southern California, to the extent that you remain active in that wonderful alumni association, it's so helpful for our students who are looking to start their career outside of the Bay Area.
Thank you for that. And then Dean Gabrielson?
Feel free to call me Tiffany, please. I think that mentorship is so important, but law school can feel like such a high intense situation in which you need to figure out the rest of your life. And one message I try to tell students is that their life purpose can evolve as they do. And so perspective, both in terms of as you engage with students, seeing them as a whole person, is a really valuable asset, but then also challenging them to understand the ways in which they need to show up in professional environments in that mentorship, I think are two really, really important pieces that you can provide that they'll listen to because they're coming from someone who's been in their shoes.
Thank you. I have one question about how each of your departments deal with the bar. I don't know if you had a minute or so you could talk about that. So I don't know if Amy, if you want to speak first, and then we could go back to Elizabeth and then Tiffany.
Yeah, so we've really developed a much closer relationship with the Director of Bar Passage Support, Margaret Greer. So her and I are in contact a lot about our students and just sort of sharing information and brainstorming ways that we can best support our students. We do a lot of joint events now together. So in September, we did a sort of 3L town hall featuring me, Margaret, and then Jonathan Myers from Student Services, so that the 3L start to get an idea of what they should be doing this year to handle career bar and graduation. And then we have an event in 2 weeks, Margaret and I, about the uniform bar exam for students who are taking a bar outside of California. And then the bridge program is also, you know, it's not exactly related to the bar, but it's really helpful because after we do the short-term bridge, which is now into December, and then we do a long-term bridge, which can start March 1st. So for students who take the February bar, it's a really great opportunity for them to start their career while they are still waiting for those results.
Thank you. Okay, so I believe I said Elizabeth? No, Tiffany. I forgot who now. Go ahead, Tiffany.
Yeah, sorry, let me unmute. So a couple of things. One is that students engage with our academic advisors, and as they engage with them, they're thinking both about doctrinal classes. So what are the classes that they need to take in order to set themselves up for bar success? But also engaging really closely with Margaret Greer, as Dean Kimmel said, in terms of thinking, how are they setting themselves up for success in the bar through taking like a critical studies class or doing other bar prep. One kind of messaging that we're starting to shift to is helping students to really see that their spring semester of their 3L year as the beginning of bar prep. So bar prep is not something that starts when they have their diploma in hand. Bar prep is really a mindset and something that starts much earlier on in their academic career. And then on a personal note, I was just appointed to the Law School Council for the California State Bar. So I'll be working with them to kind of assess and evaluate how the bar is helping to meet student needs and how the bar needs to evolve over time. So that's something that I hope that we'll be able to take some learnings from as I engage in that committee to help continue to enhance our bar support that we provide.
Thank you. And then Elizabeth?
Yeah, so bar support is a real critical part of LEOP preparation. Bar support, we start programming the students for bar beginning in their first year so they can understand that they need to be thinking about certain things. We do check-ins with the 2Ls to make sure that they're on track in terms of what they need to anticipate doing. You know, have they done their, have they taken the MPRE? Do they know if they're going to have any moral character issues? Are they anticipating, you know, making sure they anticipate allocating the kind of money they need to pay for bar fees, which are apparently increasing January 1st, 2024, making sure that things are just otherwise generally on track. I work very closely with Margaret Greer, as does Professor Sakai, Richard Sakai. Professor Greer comes and does LEOP specific and PRE workshop. She also joins us to do a bar advising workshop for LEOP 3Ls. Professor Sakai has been working with the LEOP students since I started, which originally began with a bar essay workshop for LEOP 3Ls, which was very successful. We later decided to convert that formally into a critical studies class, specifically for LEOP students, and we are in our second year of doing that. It's focused exclusively on essay prep. Professor Sakai spends an extraordinary amount of time one-on-one with our 3Ls who are studying for the bar. And also he will work with, to the extent that we ever have any very recent alumni who are retaking the bar. He's extremely committed in terms of giving them that, you know, what would be akin to consultant level one-on-one support with a fairly significant number of students. And his work is really transformative. In addition to that, I serve every year as an alumni bar mentor, and I provide counseling to the students. We certainly write letters of support. I've had to write letters of support for students who've had to appeal their denial of bar exam accommodations, and thankfully have had a 100% success rate on that. And each of those students did actually go on to pass the examination. So there's quite a bit that goes on. You know, I think some additional messaging that's coming for all students is that bar, you know, prep really begins in the 6th semester as a practical matter in terms of, there's been some challenges with the dates of the beginning of bar preparation in connection with the time that we hold graduation. So we're encouraging students in the near term as a college to really modify their schedules accordingly. If they think they need to start doing some early work, maybe in April before commencement, to account for, you know, any time that they might lose owing to schedule difficulties. And the college as a whole does a big, you know, rah-rah sis boom bah for them as they send them off to take the bar. And I think that student services may even give out food, or they used to give out food during the bar exam. So it's a very holistic approach, and it has paid dividends. I think we can't discount the impact of the pandemic. There's no way that hasn't impacted students. When it comes to LEOP students, those are the students who would have already been significantly impacted by any adversity to begin with. So I think, you know, a number of the schools have felt that, and probably feel that for another year or two as a sort of sequelae as a result of the pandemic. But, you know, we're totally optimistic, and we're looking forward to some really great outcomes on a going forward basis.
Thank you so much. We have some questions in the room. Elise?
Yeah, I just have one question. If each of you, and maybe all of you, can speak to students who perhaps didn't pass the bar or don't pass the bar the first time and have to retake it, what support do you provide to those students? And has that evolved over the past few years, whether with COVID or students coming back or mental health? So I'd love to hear a little bit of that in terms of what is the extended support to those students who perhaps didn't pass it the first time.
Well, I'll say this because LEAP specifically does help students who didn't pass the first time. We make a specific effort to do that. Professor Sakai spends a lot of time getting feedback on what their performance was, finding out the information and customizing whatever support that he's providing to the students. And naturally, post-pandemic, there's a veritable potpourri of challenges that students are facing. In addition to just basic bar prep. And, in some cases it's, it's financial, or they're having mental health concerns, or, maybe they were on with the firm. And sometimes if we had a student who was on with the firm, didn't pass, so certainly passed the second time. And so we're all very happy about that. They all have different circumstances. But we've had a, pretty good success rate, but we don't just, it's not really something that we're charged with doing, but it's something that we've elected to do as a department.
Yeah, I mentioned the long-term bridge program, which is a great opportunity for folks who take the February bar. We also have a dedicated graduating class advisor. So students' interaction do not end with us on graduation. They are welcome to meet with us, talk with us at any point in their career. But Gabriel Bellman, our director of graduate advising, he's in really close contact with the most recent graduating class from graduation until we turn around to the next class. So he does a lot of one-on-one counseling with our students who are February takers, and really counsels them not just on the career side, but he does a really good job on the mental health side as well.
And from my team's end, so this is also being only a few months in, there might be much more than's offered than I am aware of as of yet. But one thing we do is we help to work with students to bridge the gap between health insurance and to help them to figure out what their options are for health insurance if they aren't able to start a job because of that bar study time. And then we continue to be available to them for advice. A lot of the work that I've seen so far really focuses on identifying students, particularly students who are falling in like the lower quartiles in terms of academic performance, who we know that if we can do some interventions with, that will significantly increase their chances of passing the bar the first time. So a lot of the energy of student services goes towards specific strategic support for those students. But I do know they continue to be a resource to students who, for whatever reason, didn't pass that the first time. And often those students are undergoing some sort of personal hardship in their lives that's helping to impact them.
Thank you. Are there any other questions, either virtually or in the room? I just have one last one. Maybe the dean might be able to answer. What's the current tuition for students enrolled this year?
Total all in about 53,000.
Or in-state or?
In-state.
So that's
Yeah, that's all
53,000
fees,
for
all
in-state
fees.
room and board.
I think the base tuition is around 48,000 plus miscellaneous fees.
Thank you.
A lot.
Yeah, I was just curious, think of all the things the students this year are dealing with, those who started during the end of COVID, those who are dealing with personal life things that might be happening, and the increased pressure of just the cost of education. So thank you for all the work you're doing. I know the students rely on you outside of the classroom, which is where most of life happens. So thank you for being here today, for sharing what you do with us. Thank you, governors, for being here. Thank you, dean and development staff. We are towards the end of our meeting. Before we close, I want to ask everyone just to take a look at some of the stuff that's in the packet before you, before the next meeting. We have a few different events that are here, just so that you can start to put them on your calendars, like Spring Week that's coming up in April, but also our next board meeting will be happening in early February, I believe, in Southern California. So hopefully I'll be able to see most of you there. And then of course, next week we have the ribbon cutting of 198. But thank you everyone for your time. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for what you do for our students. I'm incredibly excited to move forward with this year and clean up some things from prior years and start the following year with a good slate. So if there are no other questions, is there a motion to close today's meeting? Okay.
We close.
And there's there a second?
A second.
Excellent. Any objection?
I know we want to be here for another 2 hours.
Thank you everyone so much. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend and look forward to seeing you.
Awesome.
Good to see you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to see you.